Last time we went beyond the first course of sheathing to lay decking on the roof and nail it down. In this episode, we'll look at the tricky part, the hips. To make tricky parts less tricky, measure right and communicate clearly. The bottom number should break on a rafter, a full 8-foot sheet in this case. Next, measure up the rafter to the center of the hip rafter. The final number is along the top, also to the center of the hip rafter. When you call out the numbers, indicate whether you are measuring from the left or the right. With any luck, the sheet will fit and you can fill in the holes and move on. Measuring the bottom of the sheet is straightforward. Run your tape along the subfascia or the top of the sheet directly below it. Measuring up the rafter is pretty easy too. Run your tape up along the rafter to the center of the hip rafter and write it down. Measuring the top is trickier because you're measuring through air, trying to intersect angles correctly. On the first course, you can measure along the chalk line. On shorter runs, you can just use the previous sheet as a straight edge and extend your tape to the center of the hip rafter. On longer runs, measure up 48 inches on 2 rafters to establish the 2 points needed for a straight line, and then use your tape as the straight line. The very top course is not quite as simple as it looks. You can't just measure along the ridge and call it a day. The last strip is almost always short of the ridge, either for ventilation or for smooth roofing, so you need to take that into account. Julio measures up the width of the last rip and marks that on the hip rafter. Now he can butt the previous sheet and measure to the rip line to perfectly split the hip rafter. And he writes the number down. For triangle holes, Julio centers the roof framing and runs the sheets out from there. He measures over along the bottom and then up 48 inches, marking the intersection again on the hip rafter. Marking nailed off sheets to indicate where the rafters are is another pro tip that reduces misses with the nail gun and keeps the roof nailed to the rafters when hurricanes hit places like New Orleans. Next time, we'll cover taping the seams to make sure that the roof keeps the inside dry even if the shingles get blown off.